Good morning, everybody. I would like to warmly thank Academy of Athens and Academy of Cyprus for the honor of being here as a keynote speaker at this symposium on Aristotle and AI. At a symposium where we delve into the question of if and what an ancient Greek philosopher like Aristotle has to offer to the futuristic years of AI, web, and nanotechnology. It's a crucial question. In this presentation, mainly focusing on modern philosophy of AI, I will attempt to philosophically highlight the big picture of some of the most pivotal challenges AI incubates for the future and how these relate to three dimensions of Aristotelian philosophy. First, its logic. Second, the relationship that there is between technology and nature. And third, Aristotelian ethics. I will attempt to show that Aristotle's thought plays a pivotal role once again in our era, but also that some fundamental aspects of his thinking need to be critically reconsidered. I will begin with an introduction to the ontology and political philosophy of AI that will serve as a bridge for the aforementioned Aristotelian fields of interest. Now, from the threshold of third millennium, the beginning of a new world is unfolding, incubated by artificial intelligence. A technology characterized by emblematic thinkers and technologists as more significant than fire, more significant than electricity, or anything else of the great issues humanity has dealt with. And these words belong to the head of Google, Sundar Pichai. Now, according to the Nobel winner, Geoffrey Hinton, the so-called father of artificial intelligence, AI can only be compared with technologies such as the Industrial Revolution, electricity, or perhaps the very invention of wheel. Now, the deeper significance of AI and modern technology can be detected through an ontological exploration of its depths. The first to attribute an ontological homeland or to technology is Martin Heidegger, the most significant spirit ontology has to show since 20th century. For Heidegger, the very essence of our era is technology. But as he notes, the essence of technology is not something technological to itself. Technology is not a tool, as it is often perceived by everyday and philosophical thought. Technology, as Heidegger notes, is a way of revealing of being, the very dominant way of our time. Thus, AI in the 21st century is the supreme peak of this ontological revealing. But the question is, what is AI? Often when the term AI is heard out in public, the mind might go to hordes of robots attacking us from the future. However, AI is not mainly about robots, nor about the future, as AI is already present here, now, and everywhere. For example, every time we use platforms of social media such as Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, actually we do use platforms of AI, possibly without even recognizing it. Now, if we want to feel how much AI has already changed the world, politically and historically, we can consider the massive impact of only one of its applications, Google. Google actually is the most powerful, or one of the most powerful AI platforms on the planet. And everything, gaining information, gaining knowledge, our work, our education, has been globally transformed after Google's emergence 25 years ago. Thus, human history has already been tectonically transformed by just one AI entity, Google. And from this standpoint, the significance of AI is primarily related with its political impact, thus with political philosophy, and secondarily with philosophy of mind. And we are seeing only the first infantile aspect stage of artificial intelligence. AI will have an impact on the 21st century comparable to that of with the technology of electricity had on the 20th century, which changed the history of humanity after millennia. But AI will affect us even more profoundly. And we need to keep to our mind that AI currently is at its first stage. It's going to multiply the capabilities, thus the possibilities and the threats that it incubates. Now, AI, as it mimics human logic, already often wins human lawyers in legal battles, makes faster diagnosis than doctors, or writes journalistic texts. And even art, the last quasi-bastion for some thinkers of human ontology, is challenged by the invasion of AI. We do know that algorithms right now compose classical music, they compose poetry, or visual arts that stands indistinguishably alongside those of humans. Due to this wide range of possibilities, it is predicted that AI can replace humans in the future in a vast percentage of the professions we do today, of the jobs we do today. An estimation coming from institutions such as the University of Oxford, European Union, or AI Nobel winners such as the head of DeepMind, Demis Hassabis. And the question is, why is AI so impactful? Or to put it in other words, why is AI ontologically so important? AI is ontologically important, artificial intelligence is ontologically important, because the very phenomenon of intelligence is quite ontologically important. Homo sapiens did not dominate on Earth, on other beings, on other species, because we have stronger muscles compared to them. We have dominated because we have stronger intelligence compared to them. Even the very name that we have given to ourselves, to our species, Homo sapiens, the wise men, reflects exactly this rare characteristic, ontological characteristic of ours. However, it took millennia, or even more than that, for natural evolution to build, to create this kind of intellectual levels that Homo sapiens have. But AI can reach or even surpass this kind of intellect, this level of intellect, not in millennia, but in a few decades or even in a few years from today. Many AI experts were predicting that this will take place by the end of the 21st century. Others were estimating that we are going to reach this historical milestone by the middle of the 21st century. And now we have many, many more that after the rise of OpenAI, and mainly after the rise of ChatGPT that took place about 2.5 years ago, now predict that we are going to have AGI by the year 2029. And as it is quite obvious, 2029 is almost here. Among those who speak about artificial general intelligence for AGI by 2029 are important figures of artificial intelligence like Geoffrey Hinton, who stated just last year, quote, "I think in 5 years' time, AI may be well able to reason better than us." Now, even the new Trump administration, if we have a political look on this phenomenon, even the new Trump administration in the US announced the Stargate project. That is a massive investment of $500 billion in AI, that its goal, as it was officially announced, is to develop AI, AGI, and superintelligence. Now, we need to think that if someone a few years ago had claimed that these declarations would be an official goal of a US government, this person would have been considered as absurd. However, the developments in AI for the last couple of years are so rapid that this is now a tangible political reality. AGI is the official goal now of more and more tech companies and states competing in the AI arena. So how does this futuristic state of our times connect to Aristotle's philosophy? The emergence of AI points to a future that feels deeply unfamiliar compared to any other previous human history experience. A history which, from an Aristotelian perspective, has been shaped by a unique human trait, our capacity for logic and reason. Aristotle saw this rational faculty as ontological privilege of ours, of humans, as something that defines what it means to be human and drove our civilization to build everything. Thanks to our logic and reason, we have built cities, sciences, arts, religions, and philosophies. But now AI seems to disrupt this ontological monopoly of rationality that humans have. It begins to exhibit something astonishing, the capacity itself for creating products of higher logic. And that, in my thesis, shapes the ontological core of AI, its ability to produce works of logic. Not that it has logic, but that it produces works of logic. Higher logical reason, what Aristotle and later modern thinkers like Descartes, Spinoza, Kant, and Hegel saw as the very essence of human civilization, the trait that sets us apart from other beings, now begins to appear in a new kind of entity, artificial intelligence. In my interpretation, here lies a substantial philosophical difference of the essence of AI compared to the essence of any other previous technology, that AI produces logic. Let's think the different ontologically of AI compared to any other technology of the past. Let's say the essence, for example, of industrial technology, such as the industrial mechanisms of a factory or of an airplane. The difference between a simple industrial car and a smart AI car is that the first one moves based on the logic of its driver, of its human driver. The second, however, the smart car, moves thanks to the data it itself takes into account. Data such as maps, traffic pedestrians, the road quality, weather, etc. And smart car, AI car, produces its own logical judgment about what is the best route and the best way to drive. So AI mimics precisely this ontological core of humans, their logical capacity. Of course, it does so through a profoundly different architectural structure of functioning compared to human brain and mind. We must not anthropomorphize artificial intelligence. Human mind and AI are profoundly different. But if we want to explore ontologically the being of AI, that is logic, it is crucial to delve into the philosophy of perhaps the most important thinker of it, Aristotle. Aristotle is well known as the father of logic, as he first formulated the rules by which logic operates, offering a framework that remained the main framework of logic until the 19th century, and the progress in logic made by figures such as Frege or Russell. He is considered also the father of logic because he formulated a famous ontological view at his work Politics, which is the following: that humans have greater value than other beings because they are the zoon logon echon, because we are the animal that possesses reason. Nowadays, for the first time in history, we have entities, non-organic beings, that tend to reach or even surpass us in logic and intelligence. This marks a profound ontological and historical shift, that once again it was human logic giving rise to technology. Human logic was giving rise to technology. Now, in an extraordinary reversal, it seems like technology may be giving rise to a new kind of logic. In Hegelian terms, we may perceive that logic or reason is unfolding, fragmenting, and returning to itself through the most unexpected path of spirit has ever taken, that of artificial intelligence. If this trajectory of AI escalates its powers, and the vast majority of researchers agree that it will, AI may not only prove to be a conclusion of the chapter of modernity, it can also prove to be the title of the next chapter in our ecosystem's evolution. Now, this raises a critical question. If, as Aristotle argues, humans have greater existential, thus political, value than other beings because we are the beings capable of reason, what does it mean if something with higher logic brain power, thus more rational, comes into being? Does it hold higher ontological value than humans? This is not just a thought experiment question. It's a philosophical and political question of crucial and tangible importance for the arising future. Let's put the question in different terms. Inasmuch as logical intelligence is the ontological characteristic that allowed human beings to dominate on Earth on other species, and inasmuch as AI tends to reach or even surpass our intelligence, the question remaining for the 21st century to reply is, will humans be able to control something more intelligent than us? Now, the question is historically relevant and not at all abstract in the face of the future that we are now developing. An AI that can reach all intellectual skills of human is well known in literature as AGI, meaning artificial general intelligence. An AI that can greatly surpass the intellectual skills of human is known as superintelligence. And according to most of our theoretical analysis, superintelligence will soon follow after the emergence of AGI. Now, this unprecedented ontological and political ecosystem of AGI and superintelligence is known as posthumanism. The philosophical analysis of posthumanism that includes a scientific foresight of the social and ethical challenges it fosters emerges as one of the most primal and urgent imperatives of modern thinking from my perspective. The difference in intelligence that a very advanced AI, let's say superintelligence, will have compared to humans will not be what many might think. It will not be like comparing the intelligence of a very smart person with the intelligence of a very fool person. It will be more like comparing the intelligence of any human being with the intelligence of a being belonging to a different species, such as dogs or cats. That is why the way such an AI will perceive reality will be ontologically different from our own, and it will most likely be critically invisible to our perception. Just as humans' world is to a great extent invisible to other species, because an abyss of intelligence stands between us. Now, let me clear this thought with a thought experiment. Let's suppose that now here we had a species of very lower intelligence compared to us. Let's say that we had a dog over here. Now, how could for that dog be visible what we are doing here and now? How could that dog understand what we are discussing? What is a symposium? Or what is this building that we are currently in? Or what is an academy? How could this being see, understand even more simple manifestations of our culture, such as, what is this pen? It would be impossible for the dog to understand that. It would be impossible for a being with much lower intelligence than us to perceive that. Our world, to a great extent, is totally invisible to other beings because there is an unbridgeable distance of intelligence between us. And furthermore, it is invisible for them also the impact that our world has on their world, even if this impact is radical. For example, how could a species with lower intelligence than us, let's say a school of fish living in the Mediterranean, understand that their life was just saved or it was devastated by a human decision, such as a new law of the European Union in its fisheries policy? Now, although human impact on them may be tremendous, it can also be completely invisible for them that this impact derives from us, derives from human species. Even our very own existence as human beings is mainly invisible to them, although we live right next to each other. Why? Precisely because of our great difference in intelligence. Similarly, we are obligated to consider that the goals and the impact of a more intelligent than us network of AI can have an equally massive and invisible for us, for good impact for us, for good or for bad. The goals that such an AI network may be not only invisible, but also threatening to us, without, please note, without this being its goal. To clear this thesis, let's make another thought argument. Let's consider the difference in intelligence that humans have compared with, let's say, ants. And now let's suppose that humans build a hospital on a piece of land where they do live thousands of ants. And we build it for the most noble reasons. We build it for helping, for providing assistance to other human beings. But this human work may displace or even wipe out all those ants once living there. So the goal of the humans, which is to build a hospital, comes in contradiction with the goal of the ants, which is their survival, not out of any hostility of humans against ants, but simply because of the different goals the two species have that are dictated by their different level of perception. The ants will never see, it will be invisible for them, the so-called noble reasons of humans that led to their destruction. Similarly, humans will never be able to see the work of an artificial superintelligence that threatens our existence. The actions of such a post-humanist AI network will ontologically be, to a great extent, invisible to us. And this is primarily a subject matter of political philosophy, not that much of philosophy of mind. The perceptual advantage of AI constitutes one of the most significant existential dangers for the humanity of the near historical future. And it's highlighted by prominent contemporary technologists and philosophers of AI. For example, Nick Bostrom, one of the most pioneering philosophers of AI from the University of Oxford, with numerous international distinctions, considers it possible that by the middle of the 21st century, AI will reach capabilities comparable to humans. His interpretation is that the history of humanity will profoundly tectonically change, and Bostrom does not exclude that we might have even an extinction of Homo sapiens. The rapid and similar development of AI is also predicted by a man who seems, in my eyes, as an architect of artificial intelligence, Ray Kurzweil. And why do I call Kurzweil as an architect of artificial intelligence? Because Kurzweil is the head of the director of the AI engineering at Google. And Google, as we mentioned previously, is one of the most significant AI platforms, AI players right now in the world. Now, Kurzweil 20 years ago estimated in a famous book that singularity is near, that AI will surpass our intelligence by the year 2045. But in his recent work, Singularity is Nearer, which was published in the summer of 2024, in June of 2024, he revises this estimation due to the appearance of large language models. And now he has a new estimation, a new book called The Singularity is Nearer, that he says AGI will be achieved by 2029. Other leading intellectuals also discern how necessary it is for humanity to prepare for the proper regulation of AI. And one of those was the famous astrophysicist Stephen Hawking, that during the last years of his life, he was coming again and again to this whole issue of the regulation of artificial intelligence. And he said a sentence that was quite interesting in my mind, and I would like to read it. He pointedly noted, if a superior alien civilization sent us a message saying, we will arrive here in a few decades, would we just say, okay, call us then when you are here? We will leave the lights on. Probably not. But this is more or less what is happening now with artificial intelligence. We are so intelligent in the 21st century that we can build an AI more powerful than our own perceptual capabilities. But we are also so naive that we might do so without sufficient safeguards. The issue, of course, is not the demonization of artificial intelligence, which offers countless good things, otherwise we would never have built it. AI contributes a revolution in medicine, in physics, actually in all sciences, and therefore in the vast improvement of the well-being of humanity. Much more so for me, the issue is not the demonization of technology itself. Technology has bestowed upon us so far valuable gifts, from the clothes we now wear to the technology of writing, and from medicines or vaccines to the musical instruments it crafts. All these are products of technology, especially modern technology. That is the technology of the last 100, let's say 200 years, together with democracy, have now shaped the best world that has ever existed for humanity. Humans now, we do live longer than ever. We are more educated than ever. And we have the largest economical middle class than ever, thanks to the industrial and digital technology. That is, thanks to a unique ontological characteristic that exclusively human nature possesses: technology. Everything within human civilization actually is technology. The clothes we are now wearing, the floor we are now stepping on, the chairs that you are sitting in, the building that we are in right now, everything around us is technology. And humans, in fact, we are the only species we know that constantly create a vast wealth of variety of different technology. No other species in planet can do something like that. We've built from the Paleolithic wheel and agriculture to modern spacecrafts or biotechnology. Based on all this technological ground, our civilization constantly changes, grows, and stands apart from all other beings. From this theoretical viewpoint, since technology distinguishes us from other beings, my argument is that technology is not a simple means. Technology is not just tools, as it is usually perceived by everyday and philosophical thought, which Aristotle's work had foreshadowed this distinction. Technology ontologically belongs for me to the very being of human nature. It constitutes an essence of human existence without which humans would not be humans. This constitutes a primary and original philosophical proposition that I develop and propose in my work and in my book, Philosophy of AI. In this interpretation, technology is not something external to human nature. On the contrary, it is one of its central internal dimensions. It is a dominant ontological core of our species. Thus, technology is a purely natural phenomenon, core, always part of what we call nature. This perspective directly challenges the emblematic distinction Aristotle made at his work Physics between nature, as he calls it, physis, and technology, that he calls poiesis. This revision of Aristotelian thought, a revision crucial for the modern philosophy of technology, in my mind calls for attention. In my view, we cannot see technology as something different from nature, for three key reasons. First, because every technological work of a natural being, such as a human is also part of nature. The artificial nests that birds build is part of nature. The artificial dams that beavers build is also part of nature. And everything that Homo sapiens build is consequently part of nature. Now, even if we assume that human technology composes voluminous new layers of, let's say, digital reality, this does not mean that it creates a world more or less artificial than the one that already existed before. It creates a world more complex, that makes truth more difficult to discern, but not the world less natural. Technology is as natural as anything else in nature, as everything else in the physical universe. The limits of technology emerge as quasi the limits of nature itself. Second, we cannot align with a distinction of technology from nature because, as we have already elaborated, technology is considered for us not only part of nature, but also an ontological part of our human nature. It defines us, it defines our species as it distinguishes it from any other species. Without technology, we would not have created almost any aspect of civilization. Without technology, we wouldn't have things like agriculture, like writing, weapons, cities. Without technology, Homo sapiens would not be Homo sapiens. In this spirit, our thesis is that one of the most physical and metaphysical internal aspects of Homo sapiens is technology. Even Martin Heidegger, one of the most prominent ontological thinkers of our times, shows technology as the most profound metaphysical essence, thus natural essence, of our era. Third, we cannot see technology as something different from nature, furthermore, because in our time a new state emerges that brings to our analysis another argument, making the Aristotelian distinction between nature and technology more doubtful. In physics, Aristotle writes that the beings of nature are separated from the beings of technology because the former reproduce themselves, while the later do not. No artificial work, Aristotle says, can reproduce itself. For example, a chair cannot reproduce another chair, and no artificial object can reproduce another artificial object. For Aristotle, this is what ontologically distinguishes natural from artificial beings. However, this thought, useful as it may have been 25 centuries ago, does not correspond to the demands and reality of the 21st century, thus, nor to an ontological exploration of technology. Because today, products of technology already reproduce themselves. AI models already generate AI models. Algorithms write algorithms. This possibility, practically and theoretically, it is here. It does not belong to the sphere of abstract thought and incubates a unique ontological property, the self-multiplication of technology. And this possibility transcends the traditional distinction of Aristotle between physis and technology, between nature and artifacts. Now, for those three reasons, the ontological separation between nature and technology appears probably unsuitable. It prevents a more meaningful dive into the profound meanings of technology. It prevents us from seeing that technology constitutes part not just of nature, but that it constitutes ontological structure of human nature itself. This deep-rooted significance of technology does not mean, however, that it does not bring with it today massive problems, such as the control of AI or climate crisis, which also comes as a result of the abuse of technology. Climate crisis is a product of the industrial technology, as it is a consequence of the pollutants produced by our industrial factories, our industrial cars, or the plastics we massively produce. What I want to say is the following. We live in a world of fast but quite opposite directions. On the one hand, modern technology has unprecedentedly upgraded our lives. On the other hand, though, it has brought the number one problem of the global agenda that threatens the well-being and the very existence of Homo sapiens and countless other species. And that problem is climate crisis. That is why, in the era of cosmogony that AI, web, or biotechnology and climate change bring today, in the era of the planetary challenges of technology, ethical, thus political, analysis of technology has never been more important to cultivate than today. In this call for ethics of technology, Aristotle can once again be invaluable to us. The education of the 21st century is called upon to develop an awareness of the undeniable protagonist of our time, technology. Adolescents need to be initiated into an ethics, that is, into a philosophy of technology, a field of thought that contains the most crucial risks and challenges of our global era, from climate crisis and the disinformation on the cyberspace, to the dangers or benefits of the AI or the genetic enhancement of human beings, something that we will need to handle in the next decades and next generations. All these issues derive from a single common ground, and that is technology. And we need to remind ourselves that the above issues did not always exist. We are actually the first generation in the whole history who have the responsibility to manage and regulate those challenges of planetary scale that technology currently incubates. This is why we need to develop and disseminate an ethics of technology in the 21st century, which means a political philosophy of technology. The educational policy will inevitably need, sooner or later, to formulate a curriculum of ethics of technology for universities and schools, as the challenges of technology will constantly escalate over the next decades. And ethics of technology, like any other ethics, can be taught, as we have known for centuries. And to this end, Aristotle can once again be inviolable. Aristotle is one of the first thinkers who dealt with the issue of the pedagogy of ethics. In a famous passage from the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle notes that ethics is something in which we can actually improve with constant practice, and emphasizes that to develop any ethical virtue, one must be accustomed to it ευθύς εκ νέων, that is, straight from a young age. He writes, "Moral virtue comes as a result of habit. It is therefore not of little importance what habits we form from our youth. On the contrary, this is of a very great importance, or rather, he notes, everything depends on it." So every ethical issue can be taught, and the most urgent, massive, hopeful, and fearful at the same time ethical issue that humanity faces at the dawn of the third millennium is technology. From this standpoint, Aristotle's ethics drives in 21st century an urgent message. Ethics of technology to be taught straight from young age, that is from schools and universities. The generations of our time hold a historical responsibility to limit, therefore previously to comprehend, to understand the challenges technology now fosters before its development becomes untenable. Thus, a curriculum of ethics of modern technology needs to be developed and implemented in the educational policy of our times. This is called to be a political, ethical, existential priority. A symptom of the deep concern about those massive challenges is a well-known letter that was co-signed a couple of years ago by some of the most prestigious experts in AI, technologists and philosophers of AI. So at this letter, they do note the following: mitigating the risk of extinction from AI technology should be global priority, alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics or nuclear war. The world is changing radically due to AI, even without those existential challenges. The ethical challenges are similarly critical. The everyday recognition of truth, for example, is becoming more and more complicated. For instance, let's explore one of the most novel and profound changes that large language models incubate, which is related with truth and with our social life. And that is that they develop AI friends and AI co-workers that we will have with us within the next decades. Now, gradually, due to large language models, AI friends and AI co-workers will be developed and probably massively diffused, as anyone who wants who can carry with them on their phone an AI partner, discussing with it about any likely or unlikely subject matter. Next generations in the coming decades will be born and will be grown into this self-evident social network, into a new type of norm, a new type of natural social reality, that the issue will not anymore be only relationships between humans, as it's always been in history, but the new issue at stake will be the relationships between AIs and humans. In this social ecosystem, it will be challenging for the coming generations to discriminate what is work of man and what is work of AI. For example, which text is made by man and which text is made by AI. Thus, it's going to be difficult to discriminate what is human and what is AI, what is truth and what is not. The recognition of truth, a deeply philosophical issue, has never been an easy mission. But in the era of AI, it can become more complicated than ever. Post-truth phenomenon can be profoundly amplified by artificial intelligence, meaning not only the ability of future humans to discriminate what is truth and what is not, but also their will to discriminate what is truth and what is not. In this post-human context, with a new type of social relationships between humans and AI emerging, and the noise flood of over-information and misinformation that AI produces, A curriculum of ethics of technology is needed to be developed and implemented by educational policy to start growing generations that will recognize, discuss, and consciously handle the high stakes of our time, technology. To cultivate a recognition of the value and the content of what is truth. A distinction to cultivate a distinction between γνώμη and γνώση, opinion and knowledge, as Aristotle stated centuries ago in Nicomachean Ethics. Now, philosophy, politics, and education are the most important guides we have to manage to regulate AI's ethical and existential challenges, which are not yet widely visible in the public. The public does not have a profound understanding of it. And this will not be the first time that we belatedly realize global risks approaching our civilization. For example, the same happened with climate change, which was again produced by the abuse of technology. Climate crisis was identified as early as the 1970s by academics, but no one dealt with it until recently. Only in 2008 was the first law in history passed in Britain setting commitments for the reduction of greenhouse gases of a country. And now, however, the issue is a priority of international level, and a sense of urgency surrounds every table around the ecological discussion. The same phenomenon will repeat, in my interpretation at least, also by the new digital technology of AI, as it will constantly escalate its powers, thus escalate the opportunities and the risks that it brings. Only that this time those challenges may be even greater. And this is why ethics of modern technology needs to be communicated ευθύς εκ νέων, straight from young age in the public sphere through educational politics. Ethics of technology is, in my mind, the most important software we need to develop in AI era. And this is why the content of such a curriculum is a field extensively occupying the research of my work. The above thoughts do not mean, though, that we need to develop some kind of fear for technology in educational policy. Quite the contrary. Technology, as here it has been widely argued, is a valuable dimension of human ontology. Its demonization, which is often found in philosophy but also in education, is a supreme intellectual discord that must be avoided. But this does not erase that we are now under crucial existential threats coming from technology. Straight from a young age, as Aristotle dictates, humans now need to initiate into ethics of AI. Even more so if we consider that the next generations will be natives to the era of AI from their very birth, while we, that we are here now, we are just mere visitors to it. We are the last generations that we were born into a world where highly capable AI did not yet exist. We are the last generation that human language, logic, reason, in one Aristotelian word, logos, was an exclusive ontological privilege of our species. In the future world, in the futuristic world we are heading, as we unprecedentedly sharpen our technology, we need similarly to sharpen our self-awareness. That means to cultivate an awareness of the crucial impact that the new technology that we create is having. Self-awareness is certainly a timeless philosophical prompting. Know thyself is a core of many philosophical traditions, from Socrates and Buddha to Kant or Nietzsche. Now, however, it's the first time that self-awareness seems quite critical even for the survival of our species. In the era of AI arising, self-awareness, driven by a rational soul, the essence of humanity for Aristotle, can prove to be critical for our ethics, meaning for our well-being, for our eudaimonia, but even for the very own existence of ours. And this is why I consider philosophy of AI primarily an issue of political philosophy and political priority. These are what I wanted to tell you about philosophy of AI, philosophy of technology, and their relationship with crucial aspects of Aristotle's thought. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention.
Giorgos, I have no words really. Okay, so we're open for questions. Thanasis?
Okay, thank you very much for your talk. I would like to dip into the ontology and the philosophy of what you said, and mainly the ontology of the human beings and the ontology of AI and their essence. And I think one of the key aspects to understand it is, by using Aristotelian terms, the distinction between means and goals. I mean, for now, it seems evident to us the distinction that humans have goals and technology, all the technological tools, including AI, is a mean to our goals. I mean, I think it will be a crucial cut if AI develops its own goals. And I haven't heard so far a discussion on this topic. They say that they might extinct us and do their things, etc. But how and why? I mean, until now, an AI can write a novel in a fraction of time, in a few seconds. But if no one of us humans programmed to do it, it will never do it by itself. When will be the time that, if there is any time, that the AI will have its own goals? Why it would, if it has, why, and how it will look like?
Thank you for the question. It's quite a crucial one. I think that the time when they will have their goals is yesterday. It's not tomorrow. Because currently they do develop their own sub-goals. I mean, we might give a goal, a name for an AI, but in order to achieve that goal, it has previously to achieve some sub-goals. And actually, it can also manipulate us while it does so. Let me bring an example that comes in my mind. For example, it was a CAPTCHA test that was attributed to ChatGPT to pass it. CAPTCHA test is the one that when we meet, when we go to a site and it asks us, are you a human or are you not? You have to check the photographs that they have, let's say, traffic lights or something like that. So AI cannot pass this thing. So what it did is go to the internet and paid a human to do this kind of job. So it had a sub-goal, to take a man, hire him, and do that. And the human actually asked the AI, why are you asking me to do this thing? I mean, it's so simple. Why can't you do it by yourself? Are you a robot? And the AI replied, no. It said lie. So it already had a bunch of sub-goals. It hired a man, it had a sub-goal of telling lies to him, and actually achieved to make him pass the CAPTCHA test. So the thing is not that they might have some central goal, let's say destroy humanity, I don't know what, but they might have a goal that it is very neutral, but while they try to achieve this goal, they have sub-goals that they might be quite of a damage for us or beneficial for us. So the question when AI will have its goals is, as I said at the beginning, yesterday.
Also a similar experience of my own the 2 days before, but perhaps I'm gonna expose it to you another day, because I have 3 things to say. on your intervention. Well, thank you very much, dear colleague, for the intervention. Three things. One, thank you for your boldness to claim that this dogma by Aristotle that nature and technology are fundamentally distinguishable. I wish you good luck with that, with this environment of die-hard Aristotelians. But I also guess that in ancient Athens, in a dialectical debate, that would be an interesting and possibly tenable position. So you could debate with anyone. And again, good luck with that. Thanks a lot.
Yes, and I think actually it's a quite crucial dialogue that we need to develop right now, because as I said, as I mentioned in my discourse, I think it does not allow us to get into a deeper understanding of the essence of technology and the essence of human beings themselves. I don't know if we can have an ontological perception of human entities if we see that technology is something separate from our nature, because you cannot see any other species in nature that can do these things. So for me, this is why it distinguishes us from all other species. So we can see it only of something of ontological importance for us, because it defines our very own being.
Your talk raised many significant issues. Thank you. One of them was that technology is part of nature. I fully agree. Nevertheless, there is a more important truth. That is that humans, us, our species, are part of nature. We turn a blind eye to that. One of the most recent recognitions of this fact was the Dasgupta report. That was a commission. That was a committee chaired by Dasgupta, Professor Dasgupta, commissioned by the British government. Now, the important thing is the consequences of recognizing that humans are part of nature. Key first major consequence stated in the report was that all of our economic models are mistaken, because we don't take into account that truth. And therefore, they have to be changed. The report was submitted. The British government said, "Ooh, great," and filed it away. That was 2023. Thank you very much. A comment, please.
Thank you. Look, I think there's a simple confusion, a significant confusion in the dual use of the word nature. Of course, everything is nature. Everything is nature in a global, universal sense. So you've got a universal concept which refers to everything without distinction. But what Aristotle means when he talks about physis, he refers to that which has within itself its own principle of rest and movement. So I have my nature, the worm has its nature, and only human natures can create and invent objects which are a mimicry of nature. So, I mean, I think there's just, we need to look at the ambiguity of language, and we shouldn't forget that when we transfer words which are properly speaking belonging to humans, to animals and to machines and to this, God knows what, aliens, etc. It's a fundamental mistake, and I've heard so many instances of that lack of understanding and appreciation of the distinction of language in the last few days. So I think, you know, a basic inspection of Aristotle's categories will sort out a lot of the problems and just get rid of a lot of this confusion about, will be threatened by the extinction. Pull the bloody plug. Where does the computer get its energy? We feed it. The computer doesn't feed itself. It depends. It's an object. It is vulnerable. You shouldn't actually even use the word vulnerable because it's just a piece of metal, a piece of plastic. And a computer does not have its own nature. So nature, universally, there is a concept of nature which is attributed indistinguishably and indifferently to everything, but that is not what Aristotle means. Maybe I'm sure he does when he speaks about, nature does nothing in vain. So that's kind of a global, kind of universal idea. But when he's strictly speaking, the origin of nature is those things which grow, physis. So I think clarification of language is urgent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. May I refer you to a couple of thoughts of this creative thinking? Yes, quite indeed. The term nature need to be considered either in Aristotelian way or in the more general way that we perceive this world. But even in Aristotelian terms, you said that an artifact cannot be understood as natural because it does not have its own motion and its own kind of survival capacity. But right now, the interesting thing with AI in particular is that we are developing the AI agents, that they can actually decide of their own motion that they're going to follow and the same goals that they have. And what we do need to remember at the beginning of the 21st century is that we now start to understand and regulate what is coming from the future is that the AI will escalate massively the powers and the power brain that it has within the next years and decades. So for me, even from an Aristotelian perspective, AI in particular has this form of natural being. But in a more general sense, it's what I referred as I do not understand, I do not comprehend the distinction between nature, not in Aristotelian terms, but in general way, from technology. Because everything in the physical universe, everything in the natural universe is nature.
Yes. Thank you very much for your talk, and I'm quite impressed that you have touched a very important point and you have distinguished between artificial intelligence and the human, which I am working on that, and I'm doing some research because I'm doing about regulation of artificial intelligence. And on that is actually, there are 2 points. One point is, as Petros has said, is the economical system, because the economical system has developed this artificial intelligence after 2022, the big tech companies, because they control at the moment all these algorithms for artificial intelligence, and you have to think about that. And all the others are applications of artificial intelligence. And the second, when you speak about humans and you try to put some principles and regulations, when I was quite young, 2020s, I was speaking about regulation, the capitalistic system, and nobody touched regulation. But now it's the time you have to read to touch that regulation, because the issue is that now we are against computers and artificial intelligence, but the most important thing, you have to think about all this new policy of the United States at the moment, because all this policy of the United States at the moment is the war about artificial intelligence. Because Chinese, they have set up a regulatory framework recently, 2024, and the European Union set up a regulation for about 2022, 2023, but they reject it because the system, the economical system, is the problem. And for me, the most issue is how to regulate and who regulates the regulators. Is that question, I've tried to answer that for a long time, but it's not possible.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
You want to say a word or shall we close it?
Just a word about it. Yes, this is a very important issue, and this is why I consider mainly AI a political issue, an issue of political philosophy, and not that much of philosophy of mind. What are we doing in order to limit the dangers and at the same time take advantage of the vast possibilities it gives to improve our well-being? I think that in the European Union we have some steps that we have made, but I do agree with you that they are not so much sufficient, and it is very, very risky what we see from the other side of the Atlantic also taking place right now from Trump administration, that on the one hand, it erases all the laws of the previous Biden administrations, and at the same time it invests massively money, $500 billion, for managing to create artificial general intelligence and super intelligence in the hands of a political power that now the least we can say is it's risky. So
Say it, authoritarian. Right, thank you very much.